Hello and welcome to the 2022 Regional Final Show for Yorkshire and Humberside and the East Midlands. You're probably wondering why is it such a long title? But obviously with the new season and off the back of COVID-19, we have joined a couple of regions together to make it easier for you to access the shows. So welcome, I hope you're all really excited. We're really excited in the studio, so we're here with myself, Tom Milner. We've got Amy, we've got Nelson, we've got Sam, and we've got Michael. If everyone's going to give a little quick wave. That's the end of the cringy moments for the start of the show there. So let's have a look what we've got as part of the show today. So we're going to start by meeting the teams, and then we're going to head over for a message of support from Motorsport UK. And we've only got two classes in this region. We've got the entry class racing and we've got the development class racing. So let's head over and have a look at the F1 in Schools clip to just see and remind us about the competition.
What is F1 in Schools?
F1 in Schools is a global STEM challenge, working with industry partners to provide an exciting and challenging educational experience. A group of 3 to 6 students form a team, think of a name, allocate job roles, and start to design their miniature Formula One car of the future. The teams follow a systematic engineering design process to manufacture and race their cars, making sure they comply with a comprehensive set of technical regulations. To do this, they use professional CAD software, like Autodesk Fusion 360, and manufacture their car components using CNC machines. Once the cars are painted and assembled, they take to the track to race. Powered by compressed gas along a 20-metre racetrack, the cars are capable of speeds over 75 kilometres per hour. The racing is fast and exciting, but there is more to the challenge, as it inspires learning not only in STEM subjects, but wider skills including project management, marketing, teamwork, innovation and communication. These wider skills are assessed by judges from education and industry. At competitions, the teams submit their cars and portfolios and also give a project presentation. F1 in Schools operates globally from ages 9 to 19, with teams taking part in school, regional and national level competitions. With the winners progressing at each stage, only the very best make it through to the World Finals. F1 in Schools is a life-changing experience for all involved, with many success stories of competitors who've come through F1 in Schools and have gone on to achieve significant outcomes in their lives. For some, that means working in Formula One, where the experience of F1 in Schools serves as the ideal grounding for the challenges and demands of elite-level competition.
Well, that was lovely to see what F1 in Schools is and the challenge that we've got moving forwards, especially for the teams here today in the Yorkshire, Humberside and the East Midlands region. So let's have a look who's entered and who's your competitors in today's show. So we've got from entry class, Speed Nutters, The Underlings, Fusion, Blue Mariners, Red Eagle Racing, Generation Z, Highway Howlers, Fantastic Foxes and Celeritas, Ignis Samurai. Hopefully I got that one right. And then down into development teams, we've got Dynamica Racing, Speed Racing, Dragon Racing, Martlet Racing, Team Sperox, Baildon Blues, So Fast Racing, Velocity, Sabre Racing, Mac Racing and Vortex Racing. Let's see the teams and their introduction videos.
Hello, we are Dynamica Racing.
Hello, we are Speedy Racing.
Hello, we are Dragon Racing.
Hi, we're Martlet Racing.
Hi, we're the Baildon Blues.
Hello, we are So Fast Racing.
We are Team Velocity!
We are Sabre Racing.
The zip line was fantastic. I saw a little dog there jumping up trying to support or potentially harm the team member from Team Velocity going down the zip line. So I hope no one was injured in the making of that video clip there, but it was fantastic to see. So we're going to just speak to one of our experts. We're going to go to speak to Jenny Cherniak from Motorsport UK to hear what she has to say about STEM careers and give you some advice for your futures.
Hi there, my name's Jenny Cherniak and I am the Programme Manager for Girls on Track UK, which is managed by Motorsport UK. One of my roles as Programme Manager is to organise experience days for the young schoolgirls. These experience days happen all around the country and we have three main goals from our days. Firstly, we want them to leave the day understanding that motorsport is not just for boys, very much a rightful place for females within the sport in all kinds of areas. The second thing we want them to learn is that motorsport is just so much more about sitting in the driving seat. There's the engineering, the mechanics, the physios, the fitness, the medical, there's so much more. And the third thing we try and encourage them to do is to give it a go. If they've not done it before, have a try because they might love it. One way we involve F1 in schools is by inviting a competing local team to attend the event, to be positive female role models to our younger students, and to show them and teach them all about the wonderful F1 in Schools programme for them to hopefully aspire to want to follow in their footsteps when they go to secondary school. Through my years working in motorsport and in the STEM industry, it's really given me an invaluable insight into incredibly successful women that work in STEM roles. And the advice that they give and the advice that I would pass on to anyone that wants to get into STEM is just to follow your passion. If there's something you love and something you enjoy, then really pursue that as a dream. LinkedIn, asking for advice, volunteering are all fantastic ways of showing that you are committed and dedicated and that you really have a passion to follow your goals. So to finish up from me, I'd just like to wish you all the very best of luck in the competition. You've no doubt put hours and hours of extracurricular work into your project, and hopefully you've had a lot of fun on the way. So best of luck, and as I said, follow your passion, follow your dreams, and you never know what you could achieve.
Thanks, Jenny. That was some fantastic advice for our competitors today. Please make sure you take some of that advice on board and, you know, really follow your dreams into them STEM careers that you are hopefully pursuing as you work through F1 in schools and your time in school at the moment. So we're going to have a look in a second at some racing, but first of all, Nelson is going to talk us through the format for racing in the regionals in 2022.
Thanks, Tom. Just quickly explaining how racing is going to work. So each team will race 4 times in each team will race 4 times, 2 in each lane. That's what I wanted to say. So the teams are going to race 2 times in lane 1, 2 times in lane 2, and by the end of race 2, they're going to swap lanes. The lowest team number starts in lane 1, always. So that's our way of choosing which team goes on lane 1. And of course, we have the lane swap after race 2. Now, this is all automatic racing, no reaction times, and any breakages, it's all to the F1 in schools team to fix it. So of course, unfortunately, we don't have the students with us, so we've been taking care, very, very good care of your cars. And let's not forget that it's to the fastest compliant car to win.
Thanks very much, Nelson. So, after all that information, meeting the teams, hearing from Jenny and Nelson's fantastic introduction to the racing, we're going to actually get to the most exciting part, and we're going to go racing. So we're going to start off with the entry class. I know, Amy, you actually had a question about the entry class.
Yeah, I'm not really sure about the difference between the entry class and the development, so I think Nelson would probably be the best person to ask about that, if you could just tell us.
Oh, differences between entry class and development. Well, first things in common, the wheels, they're mandatory to be standard. The wheels, the axle guides, all standard, mandatory for entry and development class. A major difference on the weight. So we have 65 grams for entry class teams and 60 grams for development class teams. That's the minimum that they need to get their car to. There's no-go zones on both, slightly different no-go zones. And for entry class, that's basically the most versatile one because the students can actually hand carve a car, fully 3D print one, or go for the full manufacturing using a CNC machine. Now in development class, they can only CNC machine their car. But whoever wants to know more about the difference between the two classes, rules and regulations available on our website.
Thanks very much, guys. So we're going to head in now and introduce our first two cars. Amy, would you like to go ahead and do that?
Yeah, so the first two cars we got today in the entry class are the Speed Nutters and Celeritas Ignis Samurai. Very good names from both of them. I don't know which one my favourite is.
Thanks very much, Amy. So, Michael and Sam, if you would like to give us any information on the stats that you've got there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that we can look at is going to be the mass of the cars. So you can see that the Speed Nutters is 77.1 grams, Celeritas Ignis Samurai is 79 grams. As Nelson was saying earlier, the minimum weight for the entry class is 65 grams. So both these cars are quite a bit higher than that minimum regulation. And that means that the cars are going to accelerate a bit less down the track. So we expect maybe slightly slower times, but we'll see, because the designs look really good. So.
Fantastic. And we can also, how do we notice, Nelson, if the cars are fully compliant or not?
Well, the screen is going to let us know, because if we have a message saying under investigation on the top of the car spec, we'll be able to tell. In this case, we have none of the message. That means that these cars are fully legal to win the cars related to their engineering, so fastest car and best engineering. It doesn't mean that they don't have a failure. It just means they are compliant to win all type of awards. And what I'm trying to explain is, whenever a message of under investigation appears, that means that our scrutineering team has found something incorrect with the car. So it may be that it's failing one regulation by 1 mil or more, but that's part of the challenge, isn't it, to get everything right on the car.
Amazing, thanks Nelson. So two completely legal cars from that point of view. So I can see out on the track side that Max and Amy, our track team, have worked really hard, and they have got the cars on the track, and we're ready for our very first race in the entry class for the Yorkshire and Humber and the East Midlands. Let's head out to the track.
So in lane 1 we have Speed Nutters, and in lane 2 Celeritas Ignis Samurai. That's a cool name.
Yeah, and it's a very good time from Celeritas Ignis Samurai as well, with a 1.86, just beating Speed Nutters, who have got a 1.595.
Brilliant, very close racing there, really, really close race. It's nice to see two teams with pretty close scores on the first race. So the track team have pulled the cars back and they've loaded fresh gas canisters, so let's head out and let's see race 2.
Now race 2, still in the same lane, with Speed Nutters in lane 1, and not tricking me with my beautiful Portuguese accent, Celeritas Ignis Samurai in lane 2.
With the fastest time as well, with a 1.534, with Speed Nutters with a 1.6.
So Celeritas Ignis Samurai with two fairly consistent scores. Michael, I'm just wondering if there's anything that helps to create those consistent scores on the track.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's lots of different things. One of the key things is going to be the quality of manufacture. So if your car is well put together, if your wheels are attached properly, if the axles are connected properly and straight, if, especially for the later classes, the bearings are suitably fitted and clean and haven't got dust and dirt in them. If the car's painted well, that can also help create faster times. So there's lots of different things that you can do to sort of try and get the most consistent times and also the fastest times.
Amazing, thank you very much, Michael. So it looks like they're ready on track and they've pulled the cars and switched lanes. So don't forget to check the correct lane if you're watching your team in this race. So let's head out on track for the third race.
Right, like I explained in the beginning, now in the end of race 2 we swap lanes, and you can see the teams are now in different lanes, and
with Speed Nutters taking the win that time with a 1.579, with Celeritas Ignis Samurai going a little bit slower with a 1.71. I think you jinxed it there, Tom.
I did jinx it, yeah. The curse of the commentator there. Sorry to Team Celeritas Ignis Samurai. I think they're trying to get us to say that name as many times as possible. We're going to go out again when they're ready. Yeah, the canisters are loaded. Let's head out and check the fourth race out.
final race for these two teams. Let's see who takes it.
And a very even race from both of these teams, with Speednutters taking at that time with a 1.535 and Solaris Ignis Samurai at 1.565.
Real tongue twister again there. So let's have a quick look at the leaderboard. So we've got Celeritas, Ignis, Samurai with a 1.534, currently top of the table, and you've got Speednutters there with a 1.535 in second position. So a really consistent start. Two fairly close times, Nelson.
Oh yeah, look at that difference. This racing is on fire. I don't even need to eat chilies for this. it's great. I'm really looking forward for the next set.
Brilliant, great stuff. Thanks for that, Nelson. So we'll head on and we'll check out the next two teams then, Amy.
So next up on track, we have the Underlings and Fantastic Foxes. And look at that logo from Fantastic Foxes. Love that.
Love it. That looks absolutely fantastic. It's really, really cool. Sam and Michael, have you guys got anything you want to pull out here?
Yeah, I think yet again the mass is going to come in and play an important part on this. So for the Fantastic Foxes, they're at 79.1 grams, whereas the Underlings are the lightest car yet, but still a bit above their target, I would say.
Brilliant. Right, well, let's see if these cars are just as on fire as the previous two, and let's head out on track. I think they're ready for the first race.
And we're on. Yes, they are ready. Lane 1, the Underlings? Be free to correct me in whenever I mispronounce the team. And the Fantastic Foxes in lane 2.
And the Underlings, Nelson, are in lane 1 with a 1.441 and Fantastic Foxes with a 1.534. Not as big a difference I thought there would be, considering the weight differences.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, pretty close times there, but we'll see what happens as the racing builds and as we move into the next race. So the team out on track are just loading in the fresh canisters. Let's head out and see what happens in the second race.
The Underlings. Always get mind blown by the creativity of the names. Fantastic Foxes. Great. And we have the second race.
And the Underlings take that one again with a 1.476, with Fantastic Foxes with a 1.553.
Pretty close racing again. So just while the track team are switching over the cars, we'll just head over. I think Sam and Michael have got one or two or three top tips for us.
Yeah, so obviously you've already introduced us, but myself and Michael competed for a few years in F1 in schools. So I was the design engineer for the team, whereas Michael was the technical manager, a sort of role that we invented. And we decided after our four or 5 years of experience, we thought it would be important to try and share some important things that we learned to try and spread across to the new teams that are joining F1 in schools. The first one for us was that every competition's a learning experience. I feel like that's something massive that we really push for. So to begin with, we competed in a competition called Bloodhound, which is almost the same as sort of entry class, where there's very few regulations on the car. It's sort of a land speed record car design. And we went there knowing that there wasn't a World Finals at the end of it. We went there just getting ready because there was an older team at our school that were doing it. We were like, we want to follow in their footsteps, but we want to get as much experience as possible doing that. We also competed in a few other separate competitions that weren't related to F1 in schools, just sort of about the competition to try and gain as much as we could. And I think really putting yourself into it early on and competing as much as you can really did help us a lot.
Yeah, definitely, and especially for the teams going into the national finals, which hopefully will be in person. You'll have the opportunity to go around. You'll get a chance to look at other people's pit displays. You'll get the opportunity to look at other people's portfolios, and these are all amazing learning resources for you to be inspired, get new ideas from, and develop your designs for the future. So that's our first tip. Brilliant.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, so I can actually confirm that the national finals are in person at Autosport International in 2023. So we're all really, really excited over here at the F1 in Schools HQ. And just so you are aware that this broadcast is coming live from our factory in Brighouse, West Yorkshire. So if you do hear some funny noises and some manufacturing sounds, then they are happening in the background as people are manufacturing machinery and stuff ready to go out to local and national and worldwide schools. Without further ado, let's get over to the Fantastic Foxes and the Underlings. They should have switched lanes by now and we should be ready for race 3 out on track.
Race 3, now with the Fantastic Foxes in lane 1 and the Underlings in lane 2.
And that's another win for the underlings with a 1.433, with Fantastic Foxes posting another 1.547.
Brilliant racing again there. Amy, what kind of advice would you have for some of our teams? You've competed in the competition as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing you can learn from the competition is time management, especially because F1 in schools is kind of an extracurricular alongside the studies that you're doing. So whether it be exams or just assignments in general, it's really important to kind of manage your time properly and make sure you know where your resources are and how much time to devote to certain tasks. I think that's definitely something that gets developed in F1 in schools. I assume it's very easy to get carried away with the F1 in schools. Very easy. I'd say, and some of the things that Sam and Michael talk about, I wish my teachers were a bit more like them. Nice little dig at your teachers there, Amy. I'm sure they were fantastic teachers, but yeah, I think we're ready on track. So again, it's the last race for Fantastic Foxes on the underlings. Let's head out on track for race 4.
Final race, race 4. Fantastic Foxes, the underlings. Who's going to take this one? There they go.
And that's another win for the underlings with a 1.411, with Fantastic Foxes going a little bit slower with a 1.617.
Fairly consistent times there. So let's see how they come up in our leaderboard. So you can see that the underlings have placed in first position so far with a 1.411, and the Fantastic Foxes have beat their school team. But they're all from the same school here. Fantastic Foxes have bumped Celebritas Ignis Samurai with a 1.534, although actually they're joint in second. I've missed that, with exactly the same team. It's actually the same time, sorry. So they are obviously doing something similar in the school to achieve those times. Sam, is there something in school where you can work together with other teams to help you achieve those times that's very similar?
Yeah, I think that's especially interesting. We had a team a few years above us, and we were sort of being inspired and following what their sort of mindset was and getting mentored in a way, and we did the same for younger teams. But I think it's impressive that you can design 2 completely different cars and they can be that closely matched. I think that's something that surprises us every year in actual Formula One, where the teams, if you think about it, they're completely separate. They never talk to each other. They're trying to hide everything from each other and just design the best car to fit those regulations. And yet around a lap, they're all 0.1, 0.2 seconds apart. I think that's crazy, and I think that's what we're seeing today as well.
Amazing. Thanks very much, Sam. Right, let's head over and let's see our next 2 teams in the entry cast then.
And the next race is going to be featuring Fusion and the Highway Howlers. So we've got another unpainted car there, which we've been seeing quite a little bit of today. So I don't know, maybe something to do with saving weight. Michael and Sam might be able to tell us a little bit more. Yeah, what do you think, guys? Is it going to have an impact on that car?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's often hard for teams to manage to get their car at a good weight. And so one of the ways that at the last minute, if you've machined a car, you've put the wheels on, and you've worked out that it's going to be already well above the minimum weight. If you don't paint it, you're saving extra weight there. So it's a good way of sort of saving weight at the last minute. Of course, the ideal situation is that when you design your car, you want it maybe to be even below weight, so that as you add paint, you can add as much paint as you need to bring it up to just the minimum weight. And that minimum weight is going to help you get the greatest acceleration down the track.
Great stuff. Thanks, Michael. I think some nice tips there for anybody who's developing their car or their team into the competition next season. Right, let's head out on track for the first race then.
Right, lane 1, Fusion. Lane 2, Highway Howlers.
And that's a win for Highway Howlers with a 1.491, with Fusion with a 1.516.
Some relatively close racing again. Good to see. Good battles between these teams in our entry class. So we've got the team, they're just bringing, the track team, sorry, are just bringing the cars down and loading up the canisters. Let's have a look. Yeah, they're set and ready to go. So let's see what happens in race 2.
Same lanes, race 2. Will they be faster?
Can't say if they're faster, but Highway Howlers won that one again with a 1.515 and Fusion with a 1.604, so a little bit slower for Fusion.
So maybe opting not to have paint is working in their favour this time round for the Highway Howlers, I think it was, in the lane there. So some really, really good racing. So the track team are just switching the cars around now. So Nelson, if it was an in-person event, what would the teams be seeing live? How does that work? What are the track team actually doing today?
Well, I think the most exciting thing of participating in a physical regional final is pressing those triggers, and I think that's what we miss from seeing the students, just the pressure of seeing those lights go off and then pressing as fast as they can. And also, is my car going to break? Am I actually going to win against a team that is on the other lane? But it actually doesn't matter if you win against the team that you're racing, because what's important is to log the 4 best times that you can to, in the end of the show, to be on top.
So we're looking for consistency.
Yeah.
That is key. Brilliant stuff. Thanks, Nelson. Well, the teams have been swapped and the track is ready to go. So let's head out and look what happens in race 3.
Right, race 3, swap lanes, highway howlers in lane 1 now, and fusion in lane 2.
Well, lane 2 looks like to be the lucky one today, with Fusion winning that race with a 1.512. Highway Howlers going a little bit slower with a 1.541.
Let's hope you've not jinxed it now, Amy. We'll see what happens in the next race, won't we, as we come across there. So neither team breaking the 1.5 second barrier there, which we've seen some of these teams and a few of our other teams breaking that time as well. So the cars are back down and the canisters are now loaded. So let's head out on track for the final race between these two teams.
Final race, race 4.
And there we go. I was unlucky. Fusion going a little bit slower with a 1.549 and Highway Howlers winning that race with a 1.518.
Really close racing there, really good set of racing that we can see. So let's see how that places the teams in our leaderboard. So you can see there the Highway Howlers second with a 1.491 and Fusion have got in there in the 3rd position with a 1.512. So still fairly close in the leaderboard with some races left to go. So again, let's go across and let's see the next 2 teams, Amy.
So the next 2 we've got racing are the Blue Marines and Generation Z. Look at the paint job on that one.
Looks amazing, doesn't it? I love that paint job. It looks fantastic. So in terms of the stats, let's head over to Sam. Have you got anything you want to pull out from that there?
Yeah, 2 very similar weighted cars there, which I think it will be especially important. It makes it really difficult for us to predict who's going to be the fastest. The Blue Marines, especially long. I think that's probably the longest car I've seen. So the fact that they've got the weight down to the same as a car that's, what, probably 5 centimetres smaller is extremely impressive. And neither of them have broken any regulations, which is very good to see.
So you saw there from the 2 cars, the really colourful car has got that really sharp-looking kind of front wing, whereas the Blue Mariners one has got more of a flat kind of profile to it. Was that going to make much of a difference?
I think definitely to an extent it's extremely important to have a well-designed front wing, because that's the first thing that's going to meet the air. So that's what cuts everything off, and it's what F1 teams are trying to design, where they spend the most time designing, because that's then what influences the rest of the design of the car. If your front wing changes, everything behind it has to change. So I mean, saying which one's better between the Blue Marines and the Generation Z is impossible. It depends on what's behind it, really.
Thanks for the advice.
It's important to say that it's not just about not breaking any regulations, not being under investigation. It's the regulations that will impact the possibility of winning those special awards. They may still have 1 or 2 penalties, but not impacting on the ability of winning fastest car and best engineering.
Thanks for that, Nelson. Right, so let's head out on track. I think the cars are ready. Let's go and find out what happens in the first race.
In lane 1, Blue Marines. In lane 2, Generation Z.
And that paint is really helping Generation Z with a 1.396, with Blue Marines at 1.606.
Oh, so a pretty fast time there for Generation Z. Maybe it is their wing design that they've got there. Maybe it was the paint job, who knows? But we'll find out. We've got the cars being brought down. The canisters just currently being loaded by our track team. Let's head out to the track and see what happens in race number 2.
Race 2. So still in lane 1 we have the Blue Marines, and in lane 2 Generation Z.
And that's another win for Generation Z with a 1.439, and a bit slower for Blue Marines, the 1.801. Maybe that weight is causing a bit of issues with Blue Marines.
Definitely, looks like it is. We've just had some technical information from our production team.
Oh, come on.
What's it saying, Nelson?
It's saying that some of the teams that were actually under investigation, the under investigation name was not showing on top. Okay. So some of your teams are actually under investigation on entry class, but this is all going to be taken into consideration when we go into the award shows. And this is just to reflect that a team that is under investigation just means that they have failed a specific regulation that may have an impact on some awards. So apologies for that. There was just a technical failure, but it will work from now on, or our technical crew is going to get fired. Love you, technical crew.
Yeah, let's hope they don't run away now from that. Right, so back to the actual racing. So remember, we've got Generation Z against the Blue Marines, and I think they should have switched lanes, and we can head over to the track now.
Right, swap lanes, Generation Z in lane 1 now, and Blue Marines in lane 2. I have to say, the colours on these cars, something
make it
beautiful.
Easy to spot, don't they? Especially when they're going that fast. So Generation Z winning there with a 1.398, and Blue Marines with a 1.68.
So slightly slower again from the Blue Marines. So there's a few things there probably that they can work on outside of the competition. Should they want to come back and compete next season, which we hope you do. We'd love to see you in the development class next season. And that's to all teams as well. So let's head on track. The canisters are in and loaded. It's the 4th race.
4th and final race. Don't know actually which one is my favorite. I like the multicolour on Generation Z.
There we go, that was lucky again, Nelson. Generation Z winning with a 1.437, and it's almost like the Blue Marines car heard you then, Tom, because they went a lot quicker with a 1.55.
That's a great time to finish with. So we have a quick look at the leaderboard. Generation Z, or Z, whichever we're using, have jumped up into 1st position with that 1.396, a great time there. And the Blue Marines, they're in 8th position with a 1.550. So two great scores there, and you can see from the leaderboard that actually it's relatively close between top and bottom. So
let me just say, Tom, that if you wanted to say Z or Z in Portuguese, you would say Z.
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 Okay.
So Generation Z.
We'll go with that then. So maybe that's the future of Generation Z, this team, with a Portuguese twist on it there from Nelson. So just head back over to Michael and Sam before we head to our last entry class round. Have you got any more tips for the teams?
Yeah, so our second top tip that we found was play the long game. So one of the things that we were generally pretty proud of ourselves for was the fact that we didn't just rush into immediately wanting to be in the F1 class and then immediately expecting to go to the World Finals. We went to each one and we came 5th, and then we came 3rd, and then we came 1st in the national finals, meaning that we worked our way up. But even some other things, like especially this one, this was our first logo. I think it looks pretty good. It looks especially good when it's about this big. However, when it's that big, I don't know if you can see on the cameras, but it's rather blurry. So for our final logo, however, we managed to get a lot more colour in. I think we managed to be a lot more bold, and we talked to a lot of people who were especially keen to teach us how to make sure everything was scalable.
Yeah, absolutely. So going from that blue to the sort of multicolour, chili red, apple green, all the different colours in our logo there. And it's not just the sort of logo and marketing, though, that you can play the long game with. It's your car as well. So it's not sending the same car to each competition. It's not even necessarily perfectly just making a small change for each car. If something's not working, you can make a fundamental change. If you take a risk, it may pay off. So play the long game is our second tip.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks for that, guys. So let's head up now and see the stats for the last car, I believe, in our entry class. Amy, over to you.
So presenting the final car for this entry class, we have Red Eagle Racing. And that's got a lovely chili red on it as well, Michael.
Yeah, lots of chili reds flowing through the past couple of segments there. And what about the stats then, Sam?
Yeah, so an extremely heavy car here. It's a really long car, quite a wide car as well. So that's really not going to help it much. However, there's a lot of very interesting design elements there, especially behind the front wheels and then just before the rear wheels. The rear wheels sort of reminds us of sort of the new IndyCar designs at the minute with the flares just before reaching the rear wheels. I think that's interesting.
Great stuff. Well, let's find out how it performs out on track. I think it's ready. Let's go to race 1.
Race 1, again, they're not racing against another team, but that's not important. The important thing is logging the 4 times. So Red Eagle Racing, your first time is... Ta-da!
1.995, so as expected, a little bit slower than the cars we've seen, but a really good job to get it down the track, because sometimes we see with heavier cars that they don't always make it to the finish line, so positives there. Good
start then for the team there. So let's see if they're ready to go. Yeah, the track team's ready. They loaded the canister, and it's time for race 2.
Race 2, still in the same lane. I have to say, the car looks great. Looks great. Nice red, like my Benfica. Red, has an eagle. Lovely. Love it. Well done, guys. And your second time is...
A 1.976.
So 2 times there, a little bit slower than some of our other teams, but again, we really liking the design here in the car and the colour. And you know, remember, it's not always just about the racing. There's all the other elements that make up part of the project, and that's where F1 Schools is such a great competition. Just wanted to point out there, Nelson, there's a bit of a delay in the time coming through. Is there any reason for that?
Yes, so what's happening here is that the race system is waiting for a second team to finish on lane 2. So that's why the times are taking a little bit longer to show. Because normally we have a second team finishing immediately. So that's just normal coding on the track. So it's all good, just takes a little bit longer.
Great stuff, thanks Nelson. Right, well that's given us enough time to switch Red Eagle Racing into lane 2. So let's have a look what happens in race 3.
While we wait this race, let's just say that Amy and Max has done an amazing job running the track so far. And now we're going to see that Red Eagle Racing has done a...
Red Eagle Racing have posted a 2.129. A little bit slower, but like we said, that weight is probably the main factor.
And Amy, when you were competing, did you find that your cars naturally got slower each round, or is that something that's just a bit of an anomaly here?
Well, as I competed in the professional class, we had bearings to consider. So I always thought that our car kind of warmed up. I think the nerves get out of the way after the first couple of runs. So then as soon as the bearings start to heat up, I think the cars get faster, but then obviously there's the risk of cars breaking. But in the entry class, they don't have that, obviously. So it's just kind of about making a sturdy car that you think is going to make it to the end.
Brilliant stuff.
But there's lots of pressures that the cars suffer during racing, and especially when they hit the deceleration system. It's important to say to someone that is watching the shows for the first time that our cars are stopped by a deceleration system, the official F1 Schools deceleration system. They are made for a couple of brushes, so the cars, when they hit them, they can suffer some damage, so the performance on the second race may be a little bit different. So it's part of the challenge for the teams to actually prepare the car for the impact on the deceleration system, so the performance on the second, third and fourth race to still be consistent.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Nelson. Thanks, Amy, for your insight as well. So we've got one final race of the entry class for Yorkshire, Humber and the East Midlands. Let's get out on track and see what happens.
Come on, let's fly like an eagle, Red Eagle Racing, in your race number 4. There we go, we can see the eagle about to land, and it's going to be a...
And they almost heard you then, Nelson. The quickest time so far, Red Eagle Racing with a 1.925.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. What a way to finish our entry class competition. So let's see how that leaves the leaderboard then for the entry class. So we've got Red Eagle Racing there that have just placed in 9th position with that 1.925. So a few things to potentially work on, but as we've said before, there's so many other elements that make up part of the competition. So that doesn't mean that that is what the final leaderboard is going to look like. So we can start thinking now about moving on to the development class. So we've talked a little bit about what the entry class is. In terms of scrutineering, Nelson, what is the major difference between entry class and development class?
Well, the no-go zone is a little bit different, not that much complicated, but it's the restriction now in development class of not being able to fully 3D print their car or hand carve their car. They need to start exploring those manufacturing techniques using one of the official Denver CNC machines. So it's all about the teams understanding that process and making sure that wherever they design on their CAD file is actually going to be able to be manufactured. Very, very important, lots of teams forget.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michael and Sam, have you got any more tips for our teams?
Yeah. Our next big tip was that mistakes happen. I feel like that's something that a lot of people forget. I think it's something that we didn't like happening, obviously, but I think it's something that's important that you see that mistakes do happen. This was one of my biggest howlers, I found. I sent out this big email, lovely email to, well, actually, we sent out a lot of emails to sponsors, and I was the one who decided that the signature at the bottom should have yours sincerely spelt completely incorrectly. So that went out to a lot of people. That got pointed out quite late down the doors, but it's something that I haven't learned how to spell it, but I've learned to double check.
Did that have much of an impact on the letter going out? Did you receive a good response from your letter?
I think someone else wrote the rest of the letter, so that was all right. I think, no one pointed it out except from, Michael, when he found it.
I think we had a worse email howler as well. A little tip for the teams is if you're contacting lots of sponsors and sending maybe a generic email, don't put all the sponsors' email addresses into the send subject because they can see them and they will email back and tell you that they can see them. So another tip and just another reminder that mistakes do happen, and it's all about learning.
Very good tip, that one.
Very good tip. And it didn't stop you guys progressing and doing so well. So it is about mistakes, and that's how we learn. So make those mistakes. Just make sure you try to rectify them as quickly as you can. So we're on to the racing for the development class, which is really, really exciting. So without further ado, we'll head over to Amy and let's see the first two teams.
And then our first races for this round of the development class will be Dynamica Racing and Vortex Racing.
And what about the stats there? I can see one stats from Vortex Racing that's pretty decent.
Yeah, it's Vortex Racing. I've absolutely smashed it on the mass of the car there, 60.0. Normally, if it's underweight, you have to add that mass to the car and add that mass again, so they will go slightly over, but they've absolutely bang on. That's the lightest a car will ever go down this track.
And we've talked previously about weight. Would you say that's one of the major impacts on how fast your car can go?
Yeah, I think the most basic physics principle is F equals ma, and F is always the same. F is the force from the canister. M is what you can change, and A is the outcome. If M gets higher, A gets lower. If M gets lower, A gets higher. So you want the acceleration to be as high as possible to be able to go down the track as fast as possible.
Brilliant insight. Thank you very much for that, Sam. Right, well, let's head out and let's see what happens in race one.
Race 1. In lane 1, we have Dynamica Racing. In lane 2, Vortex Racing. Lights out.
Felt like Crofty was next to me then. Vortex Racing with a 1.248, with Dynamica Racing a 1.309.
See, so slightly faster times there than the entry class, Nelson. Is that something that we expect to see as you move through the classes?
Yes, definitely. Definitely expecting that, not just because of the 5 gram differences between, let's just recall that in entry class it's a 65 gram minimum, development class 60 grams. So I think the teams will do a big effort to get it as close as possible to the 60 grams. But also the entire car design, it's the second level of F1 in schools. I mean, it's actually the third if we include primary class. But it's just another step, so the teams are getting more and more into the cars. So great to see that the cars are getting faster.
Brilliant stuff. Well, if we look out on track, the track team are ready and they've loaded the canisters. Let's see what happens in race 2.
Race 2, still in the same lanes. Dynamica Racing in lane 1 and Vortex in lane 2.
And there's Vortex posting another very quick time with a 1.255 and Dynamica Racing with a 1.358.
So, again, very fast racing. So as we described before the racing started, the teams are being pulled back down the track and switching lanes right now, ready for us to head back out and test them out in a different track, a different lane. Sorry, Michael, did you have any preference on lane? Was there anything that kind of sort of made you superstitious about a specific lane when you were racing?
There's always a rumour that one lane is faster than the other. We didn't really find, we weren't really so we didn't sort of look at the time so carefully and come to those conclusions. There's so many different factors that can affect the track time. I mean, it can be things like if it's maybe not the first run, in a late run, there may have been something dislodged on the car. We may have even other changes going on with the cars, maybe outside of our control. So we never sort of thought that the lane rumour is true, but maybe it is. Who knows?
And what about you, Amy? Did you have a superstition?
We always liked lane 1, but that was just because it's the first one and you get it over and done with. But I think a lot more attention should be put on which is the faster car, because like we said, it's so difficult to make sure the cars are similar weights. If they're both directly at the weight, that's perfect. But sometimes one will be just a little bit heavier, and that's the one you want to go quicker.
Great stuff, thanks for that, guys. Right, well, let's head out and see if the cars have been switched. It looks like they are. We're getting the thumbs up. Let's see what happens in race 3.
Race 3 now in different lanes, lane 1 Vortex and lane 2 Dynamica.
And Vortex keeping up that winning streak with a 1.265 and Dynamica Racing with a 1.313. I think that's their fastest time yet.
Brilliant stuff, and nice consistent times there. We can see from Vortex. So you know, kudos to them for their engineering of their car, and Dynamica doing pretty well as well with their times. It's nice to see posting their fastest time so far. And just look out on track. Amy and Max have just given us the thumbs up. The canisters are loaded, and we're ready to head out for track race 4.
I have to say that the design of the Vortex racing team is quite fierce. Let's see now.
Doesn't just look good, it's also fast. So Vortex winning that one again with a 1.234, and Dynamica with a 1.421.
Well, let's have a look how that places them in the leaderboard so far. So our first 2 races, so you've got Vortex Racing there in place 1 with a 1.234 and Dynamica Racing there in second with a really close 1.309. So 2 really good races there and 2 really good cars. So let's see if anybody can beat those times. Let's have a look at the next 2 cars, Amy.
And the next 2 on track will be Speed Racing and Mac Racing.
So have we got any other facts there apart from the fact that we've got another chili red just posting out there?
Yeah, I think they're both 2 very interesting designs for the cars. I think the front wing especially. On the speed racing car, designing clearly to get the air up and over the front wheels. I think on the Mac racing car it's a bit harder to see because it's black on black, but no, it looks like possibly even a multi-element front wing. It's gonna, yeah, similar to how F1 try to do it. So I think good approach from both there.
Exciting stuff, brilliant. Well, let's head out on track. I think they're ready, and let's see how it goes in race 1.
Lane 1 Speed Racing and lane 2 Mac Racing.
And that's a win for Speed Racing with a 1.285 and Mac Racing with a 1.373.
Good start there for both teams. Down the track, nice and fast, competitive racing times. I wonder if they're going to get any faster, Nelson, as the races go along.
Yeah, they can. They can, and it's a little bit of a mystery sometimes when we think, oh, why is the time fluctuating? But like I was explaining before, the pressures on the car may just be adjusting the wheels or making them a little bit looser while they race. So maybe race 3 and 4 will actually be the fastest ones.
Let's find out. Let's have a look in race 2 and see what happens.
Again, in the same lanes. I'll make my crofty voice a little bit better. And they're off.
And that's Speed Racing winning that one with a 1.326, but very close from Mac Racing with a 1.381.
Slightly slower race there, Amy. Is there any reason why that could have happened, do you think?
I think sometimes, like I said, it might just be a heavier car. I don't know the difference between car A and B, so possibly just a little bit more paint on the second car maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we switch over and have a look at the third race, Michael and Sam, have you got any more tips for our teams?
Yeah, so our fourth tip is to experiment with roles. I'm possibly the big example of that with our team. So when we started competing, I was the marketing manager for our team. And I did that for the first year and a half. And then I actually realised, I was looking at what Sam was doing with the car design, and I realised that that's actually what I was maybe more interested in. And from that, I went from not being interested in engineering and not being interested in Formula One even, to now come to the end, or one more year left of uni, trying to pursue a career in Formula One and engineering. So if you see someone else in your team doing something that you maybe fancy, give it a try. And you can always switch up roles. There's no sort of need for you to stick with the same role you started with. So play around and you may discover something that you didn't know you were interested in.
I think especially important there is that F1 in Schools says really you need a team manager. You probably need a design engineer, maybe a manufacturing engineer, but they could also both go into one as just lead engineer. You can create your own roles as long as the role that you're creating is providing something beneficial to the team. You're applying whatever work you're doing directly into extra points. That's exactly what you need. So you'll be able to sculpt what you want to do into F1 in Schools.
So with Michael coming and having a look at what Sam was doing, how did teamwork play a sort of part of that sort of switch on what you're doing? Because that might have impacted on how Sam was working in that same role?
Yeah, definitely. So initially our team was sort of really enterprise heavy. So Sam was really the only person working on the engineering side for the first year that we were competing. And that's obviously, as the teams know, all the competitors today know, there's a lot of work goes into designing those cars and kind of manufacturing the cars and doing all the research and sort of displaying your work in the portfolios as well. So once that switch over happened, it made our team a more balanced team, and it sort of, I think it helped us progress further in the competition.
100%. I think especially with myself doing the design and then the CAE stuff, and then feeding that into Michael, but simultaneously Michael doing research and feeding ideas into me, because I was the only one able to use CAD. He would be able to come up with an idea, maybe sketch an idea, give it into me. I would do all the work on making it a physical design and then feed that back into Michael, who would put it into a portfolio, and it was just a much nicer cycle of work.
Nice stuff, thanks guys. Well, we've had the thumbs up from the track team and we're ready for race 3.
Race 3, now as you can tell, teams have swapped lanes, so Mac Racing in lane 1 and Speed Racing in lane 2.
And that's another win for Speed Racing with a 1.289 and Mac Racing with a 1.454.
Slightly larger difference between the two teams there. With one race remaining between these two teams. The cars have just been pulled back and the canisters have been loaded. So let's not hang around. Let's find out what happens in race 4.
Final race. Let's see who takes it.
And that's a full house for Speed Racing with a 1.296. Mac Racing going a bit quicker with a 1.374.
Some fairly consistent times that we've seen there from both teams, which is brilliant to see. So let's see how that translates onto our leaderboard. So as you can see, the teams in orange are the ones who've just competed. So you've got Speed Racing there from Stamford School with in second position with a 1.285, marginally behind Vortex Racing, and Mac Racing coming in there from Ron Deering UTC with a 1.373. But it's quite a compact leaderboard there, so not too much space to fit other teams in and around. So we'll find out how the other teams get on and if they can top the team from Ron Deering with the fastest time, which is Vortex Racing. So Amy, over to you for the next two teams.
And the next racing will be Dragon Racing and Sabre Racing. Sabre Racing having a really sleek design there, I think.
What does that sleek design do for the sort of aerodynamics of the car, Michael?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the big things that you want to achieve when designing an F1 in Schools car is, of course, to reduce drag. And so if you can sculpt the air around things, big drag producers such as the wheels, you're going to be able to reduce drag, and that's going to result in a greater forward resultant force. And Sam mentioned F equals ma. If you can get a higher resultant force forwards, that's going to result in a fast acceleration. And so it's all about trying to reduce that drag for that straight line speed.
Lots of things to think about then. Well, let's find out what happens in the first race then.
Well, first race with lane 1 Dragon Racing and Sabre Racing in lane 2.
Well, that sleek paint job is really helping Sabre Racing with a 1.285, but closely behind is Dragon Racing with a 1.351.
Brilliant stuff there. So we could see that Sabre Racing was from Scarborough UTC, and one of their teams just placed on the podium at the World Finals recently. How much does that help, Amy, having other teams' experience, or did you not get that when you were competing?
Our school hadn't really competed before we did, so we kind of built a lot of things from scratch, although a teacher did compete with a previous school. But I know sometimes after a team has done so well, you might have a lot of pressure on you. So it's quite nice to kind of be the first people to go into it and kind of make your own mark. But no, I can imagine it would be, I was really proud of the Welsh team that got onto the podium at Worlds last year. So it's definitely exciting.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much. Right, the cars are ready, the canisters are loaded. Let's go and see what happens in race 2 then.
Race 2, so cars still in the same lane. Looking great. And they're off.
And that time Dragon Racing took it with a 1.297 and Sabre Racing with a 1.322.
Yeah, great result there for Dragon Racing. What about you guys then, Michael and Sam, when you were competing? Did other teams go before you? I think you mentioned it before. Did that knowledge get imparted down to you, or did you kind of, like Amy, just go it alone and take stuff as and when?
I think we were quite keen to try and do most of it ourselves when we could, but obviously there was a lot. We were working on the Bloodhound class that we mentioned earlier. Simultaneously, they were competing at the same competition in F1 class and managed to make it through to World Finals. So there was a lot of information dropped on us as we were working together, like for aiming for the same competition, just in different classes. But I think although we had access to their portfolios and things whenever we wanted, I don't think it makes sense to look too much into it. I think F1 in schools is really good at dragging out, like, if people actually know the information. They don't want portfolios full of really good sounding words and then you go to an engineering judging and then they ask you a question and suddenly you don't know the answer anymore because you haven't remembered it. I think it's important to work it out for yourself.
There you go, some great advice from Sam, Amy and Michael there. Try to go it alone. Try not to use other teams' information. Learn things yourself, research yourself, and see where that takes you. Be as prepared as you can when you get in front of those judges, especially for the national finals, which will be in person, and our next season's regionals, when you compete again next year, will also be in person. So you want to make sure you're ready and prepared. So the track team are ready. They're giving us the thumbs up. So let's head out and see how the teams do in race 3.
Cars have swapped lanes, and we have Sabre in lane 1, Dragon Racing in lane 2.
And that's Sabre Racing taking it with a 1.293. Dragon Racing close behind the 1.32.
I really like the Dragon Racing's theme, the red and the black. It looks quite aggressive. I like to see that from a racing point of view. How much did the sort of colour and theme mean to you, Amy, when you were competing?
We really placed a big emphasis on branding in my team. So I was showing pictures to Michael and Sam before, but we had branded leggings and branded trainers, and that's my favourite thing is team identity. I like to look up to my favourite team currently on the grid. Their identity is Ferrari because I think it's so iconic. So I think it's a really important thing to make sure you you have a good team identity so that people recognise you and remember you.
Absolutely brilliant. Great advice, Amy. Right, let's out on track for the final race of this pairing. It's race 4.
Well, final race then. Lane 1, Sabre Racing. Lane 2, Dragon Racing. Lights off!
Could still use some work, Nelson. Sabre Racing with a 1.290 and Dragon Racing so close with a 1.293.
That was such a close race there right at the end. A really exciting race to finish with. And let's see what that does for the leaderboard. So you can see there that Sabre Racing from Scarborough UTC are placed a joint second with a 1.285. And very, very close behind in place 4, we've got Dragon Racing from Ashby School with a 1.2 1.993. Really exciting stuff. That leaderboard is looking very compact indeed. So we've got 2 more rounds of racing to go in this development class. So let's move on and have a look at the next 2 cars, Amy.
And next on the track, we have Marlott Racing and Velocity.
Look at that logo. I really like that. The fiery Velocity logo. And what about the stats then, Sam and Michael?
Yeah, again, we have one car a little bit heavier than the other there for, Velocity with an awesome paint job. I don't know how you managed to do that. 2 pretty long cars as well towards the top end. With an extremely long wheelbase as well for Velocity.
Yeah, Velocity looks incredibly long.
Yeah.
2,011 millimetres. I think that's an error on our point, a technical error. But you can actually see that both cars have the under investigation sign above their stats as well. So they must have broken one of the regulations somewhere in their scrutiny report, and the teams will find that out in their report after the game. And more will be said in the award shows that you can watch tomorrow. So make sure you tune in. So let's head out on track for the first race of this round then.
Now, race 1, Marlott Racing in lane 1 and Velocity in lane 2.
Now, who'll be quicker? Velocity with their team member on the zip line or their car? It looks like it is the member on the zip line. Velocity posting a 1.422 with Marlott Racing winning that race with a 1.269.
I don't think Team Velocity are going to live that memory down, are they? On the zip line with the dog chasing along. But yeah, great time there from Marlott Racing as well, which is fantastic to see. So without further ado, they are just loading the canisters now. Yep, there's a thumbs up. Let's head out to the track and see the second race.
Second race, still in the same lanes. Lights off.
Marlott Racing winning that one again with a 1.266. Velocity going a little bit slower with a 1.524.
Really consistent from Marlott there. And Velocity getting a little bit slower, but let's see what happens a little bit later. I must say, I love the sound that the canisters make as the cars fire out of the pods and as they're sort of running down the track into the end. I know you like it as well, Nelson.
Oh, I do. I even have a joke for it.
Go on, then.
You want to hear it?
Yes.
You guys ready? What does a CO2 canister say to another CO2 canister?
I don't know, Nelson. What does it?
Come on. It was great.
There was a tumbleweed that just came across the middle of the
I think the Crofty impression's better.
I tried.
Thanks for that, Nelson. That was a really good joke. If anyone wants to take that and use it at school and be awarded cringy points amongst your friends, then please do steal that one. So the cars have been switched over and switch over lanes, and let's head out to the track. Yep, they're ready for race 3.
Race 3, but don't forget to comment on our video on our YouTube page saying that my joke was great or not. Now.
And that's Marlott Racing winning again with a 1.37. Velocity going quicker than last time with a 1.454.
Both teams a little bit slower there, Michael. Is there anything that you could suggest that maybe is happening there?
And most likely it's probably just that they've done a few races now, and so bits of the car may have got slightly loose. The wheel system may have slightly loosened up. There may even be a bit of dust that's got into part of the wheel system. Of course, as we were saying earlier, they go through this deceleration system, which can be quite harsh on the cars, and so it's entirely sort of possible that there's been slight tweaks to how the car's sitting, and that sort of maybe affected the track times.
Great stuff, thanks, Michael. Right, well, there's one race left of this round, so let's head out to the track and see what happens in race 4.
Race 4, Velocity in lane 1, Marlott Racing in lane 2.
And that's a full house for Marlott Racing with a 1.324, and Velocity is posting a 1.509.
So that's the end of the round for those two teams. So let's have a quick look how they place in the leaderboard. And again, you can see that Marlott Racing from Stowe School has gone into second position with a 1.266, still behind Vortex that hasn't been beaten yet. And Team Velocity down there with a 1.4 2-2. So a little bit of work to be done there, but remember, it's not just about the racing. You're looking for a good racing time, but there's other elements that make up the development competition. And you mentioned, Amy, that it wasn't necessarily just about the racing for you. What was your favourite part of the other elements of the competition?
I always loved verbal presentation. We really made sure that our verbal presentation was the best we could ever have it in our final World Finals. So much so that we won the verbal presentation award at Texas 2017. So we were really proud of that. That was always my favourite part because it was the one time the whole team got to be involved and we all had to make sure we had our own little bit to say and that we were 100% sure on what we were saying and presenting.
Amazing, thanks, Amy. We'll head over to Sam and Michael now. Have you got any nuggets or any more bits of tips that we can share with our teams?
Yeah, I think we're going to try and run through a few quite quickly here now. So the next one was over-manufacture. I think that's something that we learned quite last minute going, especially to the World Finals. But in testing, we tested, I think, about 24, 25 different designs, and we manufactured 2 of each of those and track tested them constantly. But then going into the actual car design, a lot of things that we're talking about at the minute are weight and the fact that one car might be heavier than the other. You never know what's going to happen when you come to manufacture them. So what we did was we actually manufactured 10, 15, 20 identical cars, minus the bearings because they were quite expensive, to the point where we could get all of them in a finished state, shiny looking, ready to go and get marked, and then took the lightest 2 out of the 2 of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And one downside of that, of course, is the cost, and that's where the sponsorship part of F1 in Schools comes in. If you can get those sponsors to help provide funding, it allows you the opportunities that Sam was talking about in manufacture there. Our next tip is also sort of linked on to what we were saying earlier about maybe if you have teams from your school who've already competed, or maybe even teachers who have competed or helped teams in the past. We were really fortunate to have really experienced, amazing teachers running our F1 in Schools programme at our school. But we realised it was also really, really important to do things our own way. So even when our teacher would maybe try and push us in one direction, we'd discuss as a team and maybe decide as a team that maybe it'd be better if we try this different direction. And this links in with the other things that we said earlier about it's okay to make mistakes, it's good to take risks. And so even if you have maybe past teams or teachers, try and be independent, and that'll help you hopefully develop in the competition.
I think having a well-experienced teacher is especially important for, like, they know where the standard is, so they can give advice and say, you're not meeting the standard, but I don't think you should take on and take the information. I don't think they should be giving what you should be doing. I think they should be, I think at national finals or the next regional finals, I think you should go and have a look at other teams and see what they're doing, but I don't think anything should be copied in the same sort of way. I think look at the testing that they're doing and consider doing that and trying to apply that as well. But I think, yeah, finding everything out for yourself, extremely important.
Some great advice. Thanks, guys. So we're going to head over now to last 2 cars, I believe, of the development class and the region. So over to you, Amy, to introduce the last couple of cars.
Well, actually, Tom, it's not our final one yet, but round 5 of 6, we've got Team Sperox and Team So Fast Racing.
So we've got 2 very different looking cars there. Anything to pull out from the stats there, Sam?
Yeah, I think the mass is especially important here yet again. I think one car quite high overweight and then another slightly underweight, but obviously we've talked about the ballast before, so it's going to be put up and above for racing.
Brilliant stuff. Right, well, let's head out onto the track. I think they're ready, and let's see what happens in race 1.
Right, race 1, Teams Sperox against Team So Fast Racing.
And Team So Fast Racing didn't lie. They won that race, 1.286, with Team Sperox 1.65.
Pretty fast from that from So Fast Racing there. As you said, Amy, their name is doing them justice currently in lane 1. We're just waiting for the canisters to be fully loaded and put into the cars, and we've got the thumbs up, so let's head out on track for race 2.
Race 2, still in the same lane, Team Sperox and Team So Fast Racing. There you go.
And So Fast Racing doing it again with a 1.255. Team Sperox with a 1.637.
Great stuff. Amy, could you just really quickly, while we're waiting for the lanes to be switched over, just let us know, after the racing's kind of finished at the event, how did that make you feel?
I think it's always a weight lifted off the shoulders because that's the event that you're waiting for because everything else is already pre-submitted. So as soon as you're finished racing, you really get to kind of chill out and enjoy the competition.
Great stuff, thanks Amy. Right, let's have a look. Yep, we've got the thumbs up from the track team. Let's head out and see what happens in race 3.
Race 3, they've now swapped lanes, So Fast Racing against Team Spherox. It's important to say, Tom, and I think the under investigation symbol was missing again, but don't worry teams, we are on top of that and everything will be fair for the award show.
Yeah, Team So Fast Racing with a 1.332, with Team Spherox at a 1.646.
Team Spherox have actually been quite consistent, although they've been a little bit slower than So Fast Racing, but that is a sign that their assembly and manufacture has been pretty good for what they're doing, so well done to Team Spherox there. And well done So Fast Racing, you've got a pretty fast car flying down the track. So the track team are ready, it's the final race of this round, so let's head out on track for race 4.
So Fast Racing against Teams Spherox. Lights out.
So Fast Racing winning that again with a 1.336, not their fastest yet, and Team Spherox with a 1.794.
Another great set of races there again. This development class has been such a good class and a competition of all the teams that have been racing. So let's see how that's affected the leaderboard. So Fast Racing, you've got yourselves into position number 2, bumped down Marlott Racing, and you've got a 1.255, so really well done there. And Team Spherox, very consistent as we said, down there in 10th position with a 1.637, but all is not lost. Make sure you're watching the award show tomorrow to see how well you've performed in all the elements combined. So our final round now, Amy, after I jumped ahead in the previous race, got too excited quite clearly. So again, over to you, Amy. Would you like to introduce the final team?
And the final team racing today is Balladon Blues.
Balladon Blues or Baildon Blues? Might be that. Let's find out. Sam and Michael, have you got anything you'd like to pull out for this race?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting design. I think I like the sort of chamfered front end, just guiding the air all up the top. But yeah, let's find out how it does. I think Max is ready on track. So
Max is ready out on track. We've got the thumbs up there, so let's head out to race 1.
So how do I say this team then? Are we in agreement?
Baildon Blues.
Baildon Blues in lane 1. Lights out, Amy. So again, we're just waiting a little bit for the system to realize that there is no team, no car on lane 2, and it's going to give us the result in just a few seconds.
And there it is, a 1.501.
I sound like a know-it-all with Baildon Blues. And now the interesting fact about that is that I have retired from football, but I used to play in and around Otley, and that's pretty close to Baildon, and that is how most people pronounced that play. So if I'm wrong, again, please comment on the YouTube video, and if Amy's right, give us some kudos, but I think that I am right. So they're ready on track, and let's head out for race 2 then, please.
Race 2, same lane. I'm going to practice my lights out, Amy, and lights out. But now we have the suspense here of waiting to see the time.
The blue finish is brilliant.
Let me see if I know more jokes. No, I won't bother anyone with more jokes, Amy.
With a 1.542. I think we saved us from Nelson's jokes then.
So that's another consistent time. And does the paint finish have much impact on the team quite quickly there, Michael?
Yeah, possibly. So paint obviously affects the friction, the air resistance, and so if you can get a smoother paint finish, you're going to get a faster car, perhaps down the track.
Great tip. Thank you for that, Michael. So have the team switch lanes? Yep, we've just got a thumbs up there from Amy. So we're ready to go. Let's check out race 3.
Race 3 with the team in lane 2 this time. And an invisible car on lane 1. And we really need some music for this.
Well, they definitely won that race with a 1.423.
Oh, really good time there, speeding things up nicely as they move into their final race. The suspense was building up great there, waiting for that time, wasn't it? And it was worth the wait. So the canister is loaded. The final race of this region Belden Blues, let's see how you do in race 4.
Race 4, not racing against another team, but again, that doesn't really matter. The most important is to log 4 good times, and the leaderboard will show us where exactly they are. So for that final time, in a green, lovely font, Amy.
And they saved the best for last, a 1.416.
Brilliant finish. It's been such a great afternoon of racing here at F1 in Schools HQ. So the only thing that we've got to do now is just have a quick look at the development leaderboard. So let's see how the Belden Blues have done. And they have placed there in 9th position. So well done to Belden Blues from Titus Salt School with a 1.416. So what we're going to do now is have a quick look at the overall leaderboard and have a look at all the entry and development class teams together in one final table. So let's go across and have a quick look at the leaderboard. We've got a fancy title there. And here we go. It's nice and small because there's plenty of teams. So you can see there in position 1 we had Vortex Racing, and position 2 SoFast Racing, position 3 Marlet Racing. One kind of thing to note there is Team Generation Z, who placed 9, slightly above some of the development teams. So nice. That's a really good, strong finish for that team and other teams as well, sort of mixing it in there. So what they're saying is, if you're an entry class team, we want to see you next season at the regionals in person with a development class team, because you now have the skills to know what it takes to get those teams that development teams have got. And likewise, development teams, obviously, hopefully, we'll see you in the national finals. But if not, we hope you're going to come back next year with a development class team again, or a professional class team, as we haven't had any professional class teams in this region this year. So the final thing for me to say is thank you so much for watching the live show here from F1 in Schools at the HQ in Brighouse. We've had a fantastic day racing. We cannot wait for the awards show that's going live tomorrow, so make sure you zoom back in for that and see how your team has done. And I just want to say a massive thank you to Amy, to Nelson, to Sam and to Michael, and from myself here, Tom, at F1 in Schools HQ, and have a fantastic rest of your day.